Welcome to the final session of the day, which is the future of SEO. And we have the three excellent panelists to discuss this today. What I'm going to do is just introduce each of them individually and then just let them speak a little bit about how they are, where they're positioned in relation to the future of search. On the first side, we have Martin McGarry, who's the SEO manager for Which Bingo. In the middle, we have Stephen Kenwright, who is the director of search at Branded 3. And closest to me, we have Paul Madden, who is the founder of Kerboo. Maybe we kick off on the far side and just sort of say how you're positioned in relation to this.
Okay, so I'm currently SEO manager at Which Bingo. We consider ourselves to be the most visible bingo affiliate brand. I've been there about 2 years now. And the future of search for us, we're not really focusing too much on device or voice. The future of search for us is basically we're trying to understand the problems that our customers have, and we're looking to solve those regardless of how intricate they are. We know that bingo players have problems, and we are using search to bring them on a journey to the website, and hopefully give them the right information to solve whatever problem it is they have. So for us, the future is about understanding the needs of the customer. Really, this is a whole UX experiment. We're heavily focusing on UX as well for the future of the brand. We're brand building, and we've probably stopped some of the traditional methods within the industry, and we're focusing heavily on the experience that the customer has within the site.
Stephen?
Cool. My name's Stephen Kenwright. I work for Branded 3. We are a search agency headquartered in Leeds, down here as well. We're heavily involved in particularly spread betting, forex trading, iGaming with the likes of Ladbrokes, etc. I guess the future of search for us, the mantra that we always preach is that Google is behind. Effectively, Google doesn't change algorithms to change how people are searching. People have already changed how they're searching, and to understand what's going on, we actually have to understand what users are doing. So we're much more interested in audience than we are in keywords, for example. And I do think that that's the way that the industry is going to go as well. The amount of keyword data that we get is shrinking. It's going to continue shrinking. And in the near future, we're probably not going to get very much of that at all.
Over to you, Paul.
We only have two microphones for us. So. My name is Paul Madden. I'm the founder of a software company called Kerboo. Kerboo is a platform that lets our customers understand and improve their link profiles. We on Friday passed the 7.5 billion mark for the number of links that we've scored for their risk and quality. The future search for us as a company is about understanding more information from that data to allow us to help people to adapt to the changing way that Google is viewing links in terms of Google Penguin and the continued squeezing of SEO. So that's what we do.
Okay. Well, I guess the key question is you've mapped out a few of the where you're coming from in terms of the future of SEO. I mean, it's about preparation, isn't it? I mean, how should affiliates be preparing for these changes coming down the road? And also, obviously, related to that, the operators as well. Can we start from the far side?
Well, for us, we're taking a responsible approach. The future of your search strategy is really dependent on your personal outlook as a business. So we have staff, and there are people dependent on Which Bingo. So we're responsible. We care about our future. If you're not too bothered about where your website is in a couple of years, you might have a completely different strategy to us. So we're wholly organic. Within that, we are prepared for any algorithm change because we're responsible. So if something does happen, we'd like to think that we haven't done any of the shadier tactics that would enable a penalty to kick in. So if we consider our strategy, it's responsible, organic, and we're prepared.
Okay, Stephen?
I think to prepare for the future of SEO, what you really need to be doing is CRO. And by that I mean, when people are arriving at your website, one thing that we're particularly focused on it is retaining those people. So if someone is searching for something that you do, they land on your website, and this is true of any industry, any sector, your number one aim, if you want to rank, is to keep that person there. You either need to convert them into a customer so they don't go somewhere else, or you need to answer the immediate question they've got so that they go further down into that process and ask a different question. So I think what you're actually looking to do to future-proof your site effectively is make sure that you're answering every possible question that your customers are asking. And that's about understanding what they actually want rather than thinking particularly about links or content. It's more about actually providing the answers.
I think in terms of preparing for 2017 and beyond, I think we had a really important change in the end of 2016 in that Google took the quality of your links and baked it into their ranking algorithm. So Penguin is now real time. It's part of the ranking algorithm. And I think it's vitally important that you understand what links you've got, what value those links give you, what risk those links give you, because we will see in 2017 a continued squeeze on the sort of tactics that are prevalent in gaming. We already see it in other areas, and I think that understanding that and being able to put in place some new procedures, some new workflows to make sure that you are as risk averse as possible, I think the time has come to do that.
Okay. The links questions come up quite early on. In terms of the move, Google is obviously moving towards, the emphasis is on user experience, isn't it? Focused around the mobile channel. I mean, what role do links have in that future going forward? I mean, you already touched upon, the right type of links. I mean, exactly how should affiliates be changing how they go about link building and directing traffic that way?
That question's been asked a lot today. We try and link earn. It's one of those cliches that's thrown out. We don't buy links anymore. We don't force links. So we're basically trying to build our brand. There's another cliche for you. We're trying to build our brand. We have a voice. We like to say things within the industry, and we hope that voice is picked up by broadcasters. So I mentioned earlier on about being responsible, being organic. For us, our strategy is to aim towards link earning. We don't focus on any particular metrics around links anymore. We simply look for opportunities for our voice to be shared, and it seems to be working for us.
All right. So one universal truth when it comes to the platforms, and if you're an affiliate trying to compete with the platforms, is that all of the platforms really struggle to get anything done. When you're looking at link acquisition generally, if you want to do it properly, there's probably an investment in your website that's involved in that, whether that's a piece of creative content of any kind. And a lot of the big platforms, in fact, the overwhelming majority of them can't get anything on a website very easily, which is why the spam tactics, link buying, etc. One of the reasons why it's so prevalent, as well as obviously the culture around it, is the fact that it's very, very difficult to do anything else. Whereas in a lot of other sectors, it's quite a lot easier. So I would say the best way to compete as an affiliate really is the fact that you can actually, make changes to your website. You can actually publish content. You can do more interesting things more easily, which makes going after the right kind of links possible. More possible for affiliates, believe it or not, than it is for a lot of the big providers. They really do struggle to actually build trustworthy links, and I think that's where the real gap is.
I think it's true to say that those that are earning their links are probably going to be doing better going forward, or certainly be around longer going forward than those that are manipulating their links. We used to live in a world where links either counted or they didn't, or they provided some risk. They're either for you or against you. We're very much now in a world where a lot of the links that you've got are going to start to be negated for the amount of equity that they can pass. So the amount of whether a link passes some value or doesn't pass some value is now going to be central to where success is. So you really need to start thinking about the types of sites that you can get links from, whether those sites are likely to pass any value at all, and if they are going to pass some value, how do you get more of those? And I think that is much more down the earning route rather than the buying route. And my background is, before I had a business cleaning up and sorting out link profiles, I was in the volume link selling game. I was building PBNs, I was selling paid links, I was doing all of that. And it pains me to say, I think those days are slowly starting to go away now. And we have to now start to concentrate on whether a link is actually going to provide some value or not.
We actually have an audience question at the back on the screen behind. With position 0, featured snippet, mobile first, the more AdWords in SERPs, the only position that really matters is the first. So is SEO dead? Who wants to take that one first?
I think cheap and free SEO is dead. So if we were talking about the way affiliates would optimize their off-site profile, I think that's on its arse almost. But somebody's got to be in-house to analyze the content, whether or not you're in position 0, or someone's got to be in-house to engineer the content, to optimize for keywords that present position 0 snippets. Yes, there's a lot to be said about position 1 paid listings, and we're seeing more emphasis on position 1 and 2, especially on mobile, getting more traffic through than organic. But you've got to have the right content on your site. You've got to have answers to queries. Somebody's got to be in-house doing that job. So if people are searching for answers to their problems, somebody has got to sit in your company and look to be solving your customers' issues. And that's generally where I think search is going. And it's central to the whole business. Somebody's got to sit centrally and interpret people's search queries into answers on your site.
So firstly, I would say that position 0 actually has a pretty good click-through rate in a lot of circumstances. So if you are getting a featured snippet at the top, people do click on that in some circumstances. So that's not the end of the world. I think if you're asking the question, is it proportional, the same amount of traffic that you would get before, for every 100 users that search for something, are you going to get proportionally the same number of visitors from SEO? No. But that doesn't take into consideration the rate at which Google is growing. Generally speaking, the number of new users, the number of new searches that are happening on the search engines at any given time, any given year, it is growing so quickly that actually you probably get more traffic now from SEO than you ever did before. Not because it's being taken somewhere else, but because more people are actually looking for things. And another aspect of it as well, and certainly with AdWords, and certainly what we found, it's about a combination of different factors. People don't just click on an ad and then they're done. People click on an ad and then people click on an organic listing another time. Very few people immediately find the answer that they're looking for. It's definitely a backwards and forwards game. So the amount of organic traffic that comes to most websites, I don't think SEO is dead for those websites at all.
I'd agree. I don't think SEO is dead at all. I think that mobile first coming down the line, I think that the proliferation of natural language search via things like Google Home, via Siri, via Alexa, via every other way that people start to do their search. And you've got to think about the fact that the algorithm that delivers the rankings is the same for text searches as it is for audio searches, for voice searches. So I think that we need to start thinking about much more about the intent behind what the users are looking for. And we see Google converting all of our queries into more complex queries for them. So the amount of landscape there is to go after has increased vastly in the last year or two. So I think there's traditionally we've been much more focused on keywords and attaining position for keywords, and it's now much more about increasing the amount of decent content that you've got and the ability to be relevant to a whole raft of queries rather than just individual search positions for individual search terms.
It was mentioned there. Obviously, voice search is becoming more prevalent. In terms of affiliates, how can affiliates optimize for that in a sense? Because the whole thing about voice, people search for putting a voice query. They just ask one question, they just get one answer. It just comes up in the same way the snippet does, I guess. It just comes up on the screen, you get one answer. It takes away the need to click links, but obviously for affiliates, that's a massive shift in the business model. I mean, how should affiliates be preparing for that in particular, specifically, and how can they optimize for that? I mean, what is it something that they can find an answer to and stay relevant as they are now?
I think first of all you have to understand what your customers are searching for. So, Search Console is a great tool. It's had bad press in the past. Webmaster Tools previously. A great step would be to look in Search Console and filter by page, and really understand the kind of queries that are taking place around each page. So you may have a strange query result on a subject matter that you haven't covered. You rank for that query because you broadly have information on a certain topic, but you'll see this crop up in your Search Console, and there's a problem that you might find it's valuable to solve. So if I've got a tip for anyone to optimize for these kind of search queries is go through your Search Console and look at some of the strange questions that Google's recording. So at Witchfinger we found a ton of questions that customers were asking. We weren't solving these, so step one was get comprehensive content that answered these niche problems. And sooner or later you'll find that maybe a one box will appear for this problem, and people are clicking through. People are clicking through on the one box. It's not the end of the world having your copy broadcasted in the SERPs. People are clicking through.
I totally agree with mine. And the other thing I would say is that people kind of get confused between voice search and search without a visual interface. So if you're searching using Google Now or something on your phone, you're asking Siri, for example, on your phone, and it's providing search results for you, that doesn't really change an awful lot. It's just slightly different keywords. When it comes to something like people searching with Alexa, with Amazon Echo, or searching with Google Home, that's a completely different ballgame, and that's completely impossible to monetize, certainly right now. I mean, I can't imagine Amazon Echo reading out this answer brought to you by Which Bingo, for example. It's not going to happen. But the actual percentage of searches that are happening that way is fairly small right now. And my favorite stat is ComScore said that 50% of all search will be voice search by 2020. Potentially true, but the amount of search that's actually coming through an interface that isn't able to show you your results is going to be pretty small in the whole scheme of things.
I think the traditional position of the affiliate as well is to be much more flexible and much more nimble than the larger brands around you. So in terms of understanding the search queries that people are looking for, and then being able to be very relevant to have an answer for that search query is only going to get better and more. There's going to be more opportunity the more varied the search queries that there are, and the more varied the search queries is going to be increased by the fact that there are more ways to do searches. So there's voice, there's Google Home, there's all sorts of different ways to conduct your searches, which means that there's more opportunity for people to be relevant for the specific search query that's been asked at the time it's being asked. And that is an opportunity for affiliates. It's an opportunity to compete where other people don't see the value in or aren't able to do that.
I'd like to move on to Google's relationship with social now. How do you see that developing in 2017?
I'm not sure how it affects SERPs or your ranking itself, but I would say it's the easiest place for you to build a brand, and the easiest keyword to rank for is one that doesn't exist. And if you can build a keyword or a brand on social media and encourage people to start searching, you will have the monopoly on this brand new search query. So I've got an example. Jackpot Joy started their relationship with Barbara Windsor a couple of years ago. So they've built that brand, and then suddenly people are searching for Barbara Windsor Bingo. It's not the brand, but there's been enough social engagement around the topic that it's become a search query. And we looked at this and decided that there's an opportunity here. So we started ranking for these strange brand queries that didn't exist a few years ago. So social's the best place to build a brand. It's the best place to encourage people to search for queries that don't exist. And if you've created that social experiment, you'll be first to rank. I'm not sure if it directly affects your SERP position on your existing set of keywords, but there are trust signals involved that will obviously help. But to be honest, as an affiliate, it's a difficult market for us, and because we've had our Facebook page closed down as well. So probably best if one of these guys.
Okay, so one of the questions we ask quite a lot is are social signals a ranking factor? And the answer is no. Categorically no as well. I mean, Facebook is a competitor to Google for a starting point. So much of Facebook is shut off, private, so Google is unable to see it for a start, just as a start of a 10. But the other aspect of it is if Google decided to build an algorithm around that, and then one day Facebook decided, I don't know, to launch a search product, which it's undoubtedly going to do in the near future, or Facebook decided to start charging Google for some of that data, Google has a huge hole in its algorithm that it's not able to plug. So it's just going to expose a search engine if they do that. They're not going to. The other aspect of it is tweets, for example. There's a commercial relationship behind there. Google and Twitter exchange financials to be able to index tweets. So it's unlikely that Google's going to build a long-term ranking algorithm using any of that data. So I don't think that's going to be a factor either. Totally agree with Martin. The best use of social for an affiliate, the best use of social for anyone, is to try and understand the topics that are going, that are trending, that people are actually interested in. Certainly, you have a lot of data around your own audience. You're able to find out what your audience is also interested in using social data. So that's probably the best place to start, and use it as a link acquisition tactic. Use it as content creation fodder as well.
I'd reinforce that there's very little chance that social data external to Google is being used for anything to do with the ranking algorithm. Google don't ever seem to operate using somebody else's data. They tried with Google Plus, which was a abject failure, so there's no chance that any of that is going to get used, I don't think. So I don't think that social influences search positions at all. Google have a lot of other data sets around user behavior, but I would reinforce that social is a way to influence, one, to understand what people are looking for, because there's a lot more data in there available to us, and two, to be able to influence what people are going to search for. Social is a very good way of influencing what people will then go to Google and type in.
As far as Google is concerned, I mean, do you see any shocks down the line in terms of a new Penguin or Panda update or something like that? Or do you think that now they've got everything in, their priorities are very clear going forward? It's obviously mobile first, user experience, giving users what they want when they come to our website. Those kind of pivot points seem to be very much in place. Do you think that that's just going to be with Google? It's going to be the sort of a smoother path now in terms of updates to the algorithms, or do you think there could be something that we're not seeing coming down the line, or like a Penguin or Panda style thing that kind of jobs everything?
I've always thrown a couple of cliches around, and one of them is today's organic is tomorrow's black hat. It's up to Google really what they do. They're a huge beast, and if they decide one day that the tabloid broadcasting is black hat, then suddenly all the agencies that have been PRing our content for the last 2 years are redundant. So from our perspective, I said it earlier, we're being responsible and we're aiming for organic. So we're prepared for any eventuality. And the honest answer from my perspective, we just don't know. Obviously, Google's focusing on AI quite a lot, so it doesn't look like they're putting too much emphasis on these teams of manual assessors. They're trusting the AI system to do the job for them. So for us, it's about understanding how this AI is working, and try and work with it, not beat it.
As a search industry, we're far too dependent on information from Google, and you see this all the time when you're saying, for example, if you follow any of the SEO press, John Mueller has said something which categorically to be the opposite. So you'll see on your own websites all the time that something has been said that just isn't true. That happens. That's quite frequent. And actually, what the era we're approaching in terms of SEO and where we already are now is you'll never hear about Penguin or Panda again from Google. You know, there'll be core algorithm updates every few months. Google will categorically refuse to confirm or deny what it was. And we've seen this with Panda already. The updates for the last year when it comes to Phantom, core updates, look an awful lot like Panda. Is it Panda? It's not really relevant whether it is or it isn't anymore. What's going to happen, exactly as Martin says, Google is going to do what it wants. There's not an awful lot you can do to influence that. So it's not something you necessarily need to worry about. If you're focusing on other things, it's probably for the best, I would say. And I certainly think that Penguin's now in that stage as well, where, you know, there may be updates in the near future which are taking into consideration link equity, link signals, etc. You won't know, or you certainly won't be told whether that's the case.
I think now that the Penguin is part of the core algorithm, Google have said that they are not going to give it any further numbers. They're not going to announce major updates to it, or they will tell you when there's a major change to it, but they won't actually give you much more detail. They're very closed in what detail they give you on these things. I think that we can expect the influence of real-time Penguin to extend throughout 2017. I think we're going to see that more and more. I think that there is, from what we see an awful lot of sites coming to us who have had penalties and are trying to get out of those penalties. That's what we do. We're seeing much more common patterns with people coming to us. PBNs seem to be on Google's radar, and they appear to be squeezing that quite hard at the moment. And I think that's going to continue considerably throughout 2017. I think that the ability to be able to push with paid links and with manipulated stuff is going to again get squeezed further in 2017. It's quite a difficult year, I think, for people trying to compete on things like that.
We actually have a question up there for relating to Witch Bingo. Do you want to answer that or not? I'm not sure. Really.
It was a mix of advertising third-party adverts and the fact that we're not licensed. So as an affiliate, we don't have a gambling license. So it's obviously a risky subject in the States, and you know, Facebook and Google take a firm stance on Facebook. The problem was the license didn't seem to matter when there was a £30,000 or £50,000 a month budget. So we weren't prepared to pay X amount for advertising. So they cited the fact that we didn't have a license for gambling, that we couldn't naturally trade online. So they shut us down. We removed all our content. We've tried to clean it up, but we're not paying £30,000 a month for advertising third parties.
Okay. We have another question from Big 8. Backlinking with medium.com is good or bad for SEO? Anybody want to take that one?
I'd say
Stephen?
It's fine, but it's not really going to move the needle at all. So certainly the way that I use Medium is I'll write a blog post on my website, on my blog or whatever, and after a week or so, I'll publish it on Medium as well, link back to the original. And I think that's largely the case for a lot of people. Medium is so full of unoriginal content, as in literally someone else is already been posted somewhere else. I don't think it's got an awful lot of value. I wouldn't say, because certainly it's not your website, I wouldn't say it's going to be dangerous in any way. So by all means, you know, if you have something awesome that you want to publish on Medium, I use it to extend the reach of any post that I'm writing to get more social traction particularly. But I don't think it's really going to impact you in an SEO way at all.
What we tend to see is when we see people, we do a lot of link audits. We're doing masses of link audits at the moment. When you look at link audits, you tend to see patterns of what is or has been working for people before they got caught. You see abuse of a variety of different networks in terms of gaining links. Medium isn't really on that radar, which would indicate that it probably isn't working that well. So I'd agree with everything Stephen said.
You touched on manipulation. You said that this year it's going to close down. I mean, how can affiliates protect themselves from the stuff that is going on at the moment, such as influencer review, influencer reviews and stuff being manipulated? I mean, how can they stop that? I mean, obviously, that it's very easy. It's quite cheap to get people to particular, you can find people to do that very, very cheaply to organise campaigns to kind of drive someone else's competitor ranking down. And what tips would you give to affiliates to protect their businesses and their websites against these tactics in 2017?
Would you go first with that?
I'll have a think.
Yeah.
In terms of protecting what you've got from a link profile perspective, make sure you understand every new link that appears for your website and then proactively disavow those that you think are going to cause you a problem. There are many ways of being able to see what new links are appearing. Majestic, for example, we have an automated system within Kerboo that brings those in from multiple sources. But the point being, it's important to understand what new links are appearing, what the intent was behind those links, and then negating any risk before it becomes a problem. And the easiest and best way to negate that risk is through the disavow file.
Thank you. Stephen, do you have anything to add on that?
Sure. I totally agree with that. I have a price comparison website for a client that's got a payday loan subdomain, and that gets 10,000 links a week, which we have to manually go through, disavow a bunch of stuff. Never negatively affected, massive increase in visibility. It's just about keeping on top of it and just keeping an eye on what links are actually coming into your website. Disavow files work. Disavow files, when used properly, aren't dangerous, so it's just about keeping on top of things.
Yeah, I would concur with all of that, and keep your ear to the ground as well. Understand who your competitors are. Try and get a feel for their strategy, what it is that they do. Are they the kind of person that would go out and attack you, spam you? So use events like this, come to these events and talk to your competitors and try and get a feel for them individually, because bottom line is going to be a competitor that does that to you. And you'll more than likely have some kind of understanding who it is. So network, come to events like this and find out who you're working with.
Do you get much of that at Which Bingo then?
Yeah, we hear things. So the good thing about being a big brand is you're involved in the conversation. And when something does happen, naturally we hear from various sources. Personally, we don't get a lot of attacks. I don't think it happens that much anymore. But we just maintain the link profile. So if you don't link build, you have to maintain. That's really important to have link maintenance.
Do we have any questions from the audience at all? Okay, right. I mean, obviously, it seems to still be all about Google. I mean, is there any end in sight to that at all?
Personally, I don't think so. They were named in 2016 as the biggest cash-rich company. I think they took over Apple. So that puts them in a very good position. If a young new business comes to the fold, I would never underestimate Google's ability to acquire. So yeah, they are the best in show. Search is a product, and they're the best at it. I've always said it's a shame that some of the major devices like Samsung, Apple haven't done more with search. Because it takes 2 or 3 interactions before you're on a browser searching on your phone. If one of these devices could come up with a way of searching without 2 or 3 clicks of a finger, then you'd hope that they've nailed it. But with Google's relationship with devices and Android, I can't see a way past them. They are the best search brand.
So what I would say, and certainly something that if you were in my session earlier this morning, we're really big fans of Bing, weirdly. So Bing is actually growing. Volume-wise, nowhere near as big as Google. If you're interested in volume, Google is always going to be king. Bing can't compete with that. But actually, the audience on Bing, older, converts better, cheaper. We use paid search quite a lot, so we actually invest quite a lot into Bing. The volume isn't there, but the quality of the traffic is, so it's definitely something to explore a little bit.
I'd agree with that. That Bing is taking market share, but and they appear to be getting their house in order at long last to try and do things a little bit better than they have done in the past. But they're still tiny, and they're going to remain tiny for a long time. I think Google is the only game in town for most people.
We touched on it in a few areas, sort of few aspects, I guess, of voice search. But how else is technology going to dictate how we search information in the future?
I'm not sure. I want to be able to search in my car. I want to be able to search up in the bedroom. So someone ought to come along and synchronize all these devices. It's probably going to be Google that does that eventually with their power. But I hope to see a future where you can walk into a room and search with a device, whether it's your TV, your phone, or some kind of magic new device that does all of this. But yeah, the freedom to be able to find information needs to be readily available. Excuse me, and we're driving around in our cars. We want information. So yeah, whoever comes up with the solution to synchronize your entire life is going to likely, not dominate search, but be a major player.
I'm really interested in AI, in conversational UX as a particular thing. So the kind of parallel I will draw is Amazon. If you want to buy something, there's a realistic expectation that you can go on Amazon and find it. So you go on Amazon. 40% of all product searches now begin on Amazon, not Google. And I think that once site search, once the question and answer side of things becomes much more intelligent on people's actual websites, and something that we're working on quite a lot is that kind of conversational UX aspect. I think if a player like Money Supermarket, for example, if you can go to Money Supermarket and ask it a question and there's a realistic expectation that it's going to give you the answer to your question, more people will start their search at a player like Money Supermarket than they will at Google. So I think that's going to be one of the big changes that technology is going to instigate in the near future. It relies on the content being there. So I think, when you're actually preparing for something like this, nothing particularly changes. Money Supermarket has to provide the answer. What's going to change is the ability to connect the question with the right answer. So I think we're not too far away from that. And that's one of the things that I think is going to be particularly big on the horizon for financial affiliates, certainly. I don't think there's a brand quite big enough in iGaming or something like that. But anywhere there's a huge brand that's really dominant, ASOS is another great example of this, you're going to start seeing that change.
I think technology enables the fragmentation of how we search is continuing at pace. There are times that you want to do the search that you do in your car is different to the search that you do when you're walking down the street, is different to the search that you do when you're in your kitchen, is different to the search you do when you're on your mobile, is different to the search you're doing on your desktop. All these things mean that the proliferation of what we search for and when we search for it, all of that increasing landscape is just opportunity. All of that is opportunity for it.
Okay, we're sort of drawing to the end of the session now. Has anyone in the audience got a question for the panel on the topics raised today? Okay, and on that note, I think I'd like to draw things to a close. Thanks very much, guys. That was a fascinating discussion. I'm sure that if anyone in the audience has any questions they want to ask sort of directly or personally to these guys, they'll hang around for a few minutes at the end, and you can do that then. Thank you very much. Bye.